Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to whatever the hell this is. Like the show, what you're going to see tonight is strangely familiar. It's starkly beautiful and completely insane. And like the show, it looks extremely expensive. I'm thrilled to be your moderator this evening, Stephen Colbert. As Mr. Milchick might say, come, let us reason together and ideate the manifestation of Kier's ultimate intent. Before I bring out our panel, please remember to pay close attention to the order in which they are introduced, where they seat, what they are wearing, and what words they do not use to answer these questions, as any or all of these could be clues to the events of season 3. Just as importantly, if Ben denies that anything tonight is a clue, that itself is a clue. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Darri Olafsson, Sarah Bock, Michael Chernus, Jen Tullock, Dichen Lachman, Tramell Tillman, Zach Cherry, John Turturro, Britt, Adam Scott, Dan Erickson, and Ben Stiller.
Stephen, can you get us a larger bottle of water, please?
Yeah. So nice to see all you guys.
Hey, man.
Gwendoline will be out here again in just a moment.
Gwendoline, Christie. Amazing.
I was saying to Sarah backstage, who is now a freshman at Northwestern University, go Cats. And pretty much everybody on the stage can back it up. It's not always like this with the TV show. The fans aren't always quite this rabid. The PR events aren't always this good, and the shows aren't always this gripping and exciting and mysterious. And I want to start off with a question for everyone. I know everyone was waiting for the final episode. Ben and Dan, you know what's going to happen. At what point does everyone else here know what happens in the final episode?
Like the final episode, or?
Of this season. Let's take it one season. If you want to tell us the final episode of season 3, we're not going to stop you.
You want me to tell you exactly what happens in the final episode of the season? Of the series?
We can just go.
Okay. No. When the script, we have, we have security measures, but we haven't been this type of a thing where people are that interested in the show for that long. So I don't know if we have like crazy security measures.
Well, after season 1, once season 1 was released, suddenly we had to like encode our emails and have code words for the show, and we started calling it something else, which was super weird.
The whole show something else?
Yeah, we start.
Well, season 2 we called Cold Harbor.
Cold Harbor.
Cold Harbor. Okay. Are we supposed to know what Cold Harbor is at this point? Have you told us what Cold Harbor is and we just haven't paid attention? Or am I the only dummy?
Were you on your phone at all when you were watching the show?
100%. Is that Cold Harbor? Is that part of being Cold Harbor?
It helps if you're on your phone.
Yeah, we text you what Cold Harbor is at a certain point.
Okay.
But then it goes away.
Do you find it ironic that we're here at an Apple TV Plus event and there's no signal in this building at all? Okay.
It's just weird to be here. I mean, right? It's weird because we filmed here for like 5 years. We've been coming back and forth for 5 years, and whenever we're here, nobody cares that we're here. We're just like in the way of like the basketball game that's happening, or we were here when they were giving COVID shots. We've been here through a lot of different things.
I want to ask Darri something about the final episode and the fight in the hallway. What was it like shooting that fight?
How was it?
Yeah, how was it?
It was hard work, but thankfully we have stunt performers who do most of it. They just make me look really good. It was a lot of fun. It was, it was a tough 3 days of shooting, and Adam got punched into a wall, and
Adam, did you run stunts?
Not on purpose. It was completely my fault. I got thrown into a wall and I led with my head, which is why stunt performers are vastly important, because I didn't know what I was doing and didn't bring my arm up in time. So I hit the wall with my head. But I did get a concussion from it, but Ben thought the shot looked great, and that's all that matters.
Well, I should say that in the script it said Adam Scott actually gets a concussion. Like, that was written into the original script.
Darri, don't take it personally when I say that one of my favorite moments of the entire season is when you get shot in the throat with a bolt stunner.
I get it.
But one of the things I loved about it was that it perfectly encapsulates some of the mystery of Severance, is that there you are in an elevator, you don't know who this man is, you don't know why you're in the elevator with him, and you don't know why you just killed him.
Yeah, why there's blood spraying in my face.
Yeah, we kind of try to anytime there's something that we can do on the show that could only happen with the premise of the show, we try to lean into that.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. Can you break down how you approached Mark S. arguing with himself in and out of the cabin? Dan, how did you approach writing that? And second, Ben, how did you approach shooting that?
Yeah, it was always a scene that I knew we wanted to have on the show. We weren't sure where that was going to be, and it was sort of something we figured out in the writer's room, was like, oh, we have that birthing cabin, but we, they've come to such a point, sort of mutual distrust by this point. Each of them has a kind of a reason to suspect the other's motives. And so I just thought it would be so fascinating to actually put them face to face. But, with something like that on the page, you've never seen anything quite like that. So you don't know if it's going to work until you put it in the hands of these guys.
But Ben, how did you shoot? Did you shoot that continuously on one side and then on the other?
Yeah, we had a lot. I mean, Adam had the hard job there because he had to, do it. He had to talk to himself, and he had to record video messages to himself that he would then respond to. And it was really confusing. Also because we were rewriting the scene up until, I think, the Friday before we shot on a Monday. And I don't know, those things are just like mind-numbing, and you just want to try to figure out a way that the audience can follow it. But I think Adam is the one who probably had the most challenging job on that scene.
Well, the scene was always, like Dan said, it was a scene that was going to happen. And so for the entire season, it was like on the horizon, and it was something I was dreading. It was like, there's nothing I can do. It's coming. I'm gonna have to do it.
Why did you dread it?
Because it's something that you could so easily screw up. And I was afraid of screwing it up, honestly. And
because we wouldn't see a differentiation in the characters?
I think it's maybe I was afraid of not buying it or something. It's just like actor things where you're afraid of the most challenging thing, and I felt that was going to be incredibly challenging. And it was incredibly challenging, but it was also really fun. And I had these guys to lean on. I had Ben and I had Dan and Bo Willem and Mark Friedman also writing the scene. And really, you know, they just made my job so much easier.
Did you shoot all of Innie and then all of Outie, or did you go between Innie and Outie?
I don't know. I don't remember.
We kind of shot, basically like the inside and then the outside. I think it took like about 2.5 days of shooting. Yeah.
I recorded all of the video messages in my apartment, I think, just so we had something to work with. But then we started using the ones we recorded on set.
I don't know. How
So when you acted with you, who's not in the show, the guy back at his apartment who's not working.
That's
so
right.
you have an Innie and an Outie and further Outie.
That's right. He's by far the most difficult actor I've ever worked with.
Well, I want to, sorry, but did you have
I was
something?
just curious how you learned all those lines, because you had to learn them over a weekend.
Yeah, I don't remember. I guess you would have to ask my outie.
Well, I do want to talk about like the differentiation between.
That's just not easy to do. I just wanted to learn, like, was it like 12 pages of dialogue?
Yeah, we had been working on it for a long time, though, right?
Okay, I'm just saying you're good at learning lines.
Oh, thank you.
No one has any sympathy for actors, Ben. I want to talk about the differentiation between like your Innies and your Outies. I'm just curious, everybody here who plays both an Innie and an Outie, is there one of them you relate to more?
Britt, Zach.
Zach? Are you your Innie, or are you closer to your Innie or your Outie?
Well, I spend more time with my Innie, so I think I probably have a slight bias towards the Innie.
That's my answer too.
John, do you like your Innie or your Outie more?
I think it's the same person, just your Innie is in a reduced 4th grade state, and that's basically the difference, you know. So I can't really choose. No.
But Britt, when you were, you know, you were your Innie and your Outie, and you were your Outie as your Innie at one point. And I'm curious, are there things that you do as your Outie pretending to be an Innie that we should have picked up on immediately?
I think you got it all. I think everyone picked it up. I don't know. There's amazing detectives in the audience right now.
It took me a minute
there's
to realize
someone
it.
waving and they got all of them right.
Gemma, I really love the difference between Gemma. Sorry. It's too late. You're Gemma now. Dichen, I love the difference between Gemma and Miss Casey. There's a huge differentiation between the two of those. Especially, I love the moment when you become Miss Casey again with Mark as you're pivoting back and forth. What's the difference between those characters for you? I mean, you have so many different iterations, especially in when we get to see your entire story of all the different times you iterate as your Innie. What's that like as a challenge?
It was a huge challenge, and I was terrified. I didn't want to let anybody down. No, Miss Casey is very close to my heart. I love her, and she was the first character that I really got to inhabit on the show. And there's this innocence and curiosity and this, want and desire to feel included on the 7th floor with all these incredible people. I just feel for her so much. And then Gemma was built by all the incredible performances around her leading up to learning about her presence, with Mark's grief of her and Devon and Rickon's loss of this person. So to have all of these little fragments building up to episode 7, it was just a gift with incredible leadership to get to do that.
You don't have to tell me what it is, but do you know what Cold Harbor is?
Did you watch the episode?
Another question is not an answer. Okay. Britt, I just want to ask one more thing about Helen and Helly when you came in. Did everybody here know when you showed up that day that you were being the wrong character, or did they have to discover it? Was there anything kept from the cast when you came in that day?
We knew, but I will say I would forget because Britt was doing such an amazing job that I would forget that it was happening while she was doing it.
And I kind of felt bad about that. I felt like I was drinking Diet Coke and it wasn't the real thing.
How dare you?
They were a sponsor. Tramell, what do you think of Milchick's arc this season? Do you think he's still a company man?
I think that's your answer.
Because these are all company people here. These are all the Lumen faithful.
No, I think he's still very much devoted.
Can we talk about his office for a second? Let's talk about the art in your office.
Yeah, do you like it?
I do. I like the iceberg.
Yeah.
And the duck rabbit.
Yeah, thank you.
And the bonsai.
Yeah.
You know, you can't see most of an iceberg. It's hidden. The duck and the rabbit is two different things at once. A bonsai is a stunted, controlled, living thing.
Wow, so you are a real fan. This is fantastic.
I have a full-time job. Why the fuck do you think I'm here tonight?
How do you do this? How do you do this?
What do you think that speaks to, how do you think that speaks to Milchick and his character and what perhaps he's hiding under the water, or the different things he has to be, or the way he's stunted?
Well, what I loved about those particular details is that I was given, license to contribute to that. Ben and Dan and Jeremy Hindle, we had a lot of conversation about how do we tell this story of Milchick in this new position that he's in, and what would be in his office. So there was a lot of conversation, and I thought, an iceberg would be a nice touch, and a duck rabbit, a lot of the mystery that's still there.
You know where you might find an iceberg?
Where?
A cold harbor.
So you do know where it is.
Yeah, exactly. Darri, I want to ask about Mr. Drummond for a second. Very protective of the family and of Lumen. Do you think he really believes in what's being done, or is he just as much in the dark as everyone else?
Can I say one thing? This is such an incredible event. Everything seems to be so perfectly organized. The only thing I'm kind of worried that they didn't get my measurements. So just for people to be able to see Sarah, I'm going to move back a little bit. Sorry about that. I was like... I would say, absolutely, he knows much more than most people do. I think so. When we discussed this at the beginning, we talked about him having been brought in from some other facility somewhere around the world, brought in to take care of this, what's happening here. No, he's a dirtbag with a lot of knowledge.
Ben and Dan, what is Cold Harbor? And if you can't answer that, do you know who killed Laura Palmer? Is any chance this is going to end like Newhart? Because I'll be really mad if
It's all a dream.
Yeah, if Mark wakes up next to Suzanne Plachette a year from now. Well, let's talk about some of the theories. There are a lot of fan theories out there about what's happening, and I'm not going to ask you to verify. There's only one fan theory I'm actually going to ask about today. And it's a Rickon fan theory, but
Rickon!
Is there a fan theory that you've seen, without saying what it is, that's right?
Oh. Yeah. Honestly, yes. I mean, like certain things, yeah.
Does it thrill you that the fans are this invested in every little detail? And do you ever laugh thinking that literally that chair was just there? And they're like, oh no, but that chair only has 3 wheels.
I mean, the chair is usually never just there. You know what I mean?
Oh, I understand that. You're shooting this and everything.
I have a question for you.
Yes, what?
Who is your stylist?
Antonio Zeres. Why? What do you wear? Who are you wearing
I
tonight?
just feel like we have very similar outfits.
Emporio Armani.
Yeah, okay. No, I mean, there definitely are so many ideas that people have that are amazing. And yeah, a lot of times it's something that the people are picking up on that we didn't do intentionally, but then it's like, oh, but it kind of makes sense, which is interesting. A lot of times...
That was really not an answer.
Okay. But the point is,
some things people pick up on, and
it's amazing that the fans are so invested and so smart and are giving back so much to the show, are so creatively invested in the show, that I feel like they care about the show as much as we care about the show, and I've never had that experience, which is pretty amazing. Well, thank you to everybody who cares so much.
Dan, anything you want to add to that?
I mean, I actually rewatched the pilot last night for the first time in a while, and it occurred to me, there was that scene where Mark is cleaning out his gutters, and I just feel like there aren't enough fan theories about Mark's gutters. Because we worked really hard. Adam had to get on a ladder.
I trained.
He trained. He could have gotten a concussion.
Let me go back here. Flipping around, we're going out of order here. Zach, we learned a lot about Dylan's home life this season, which was fun for audiences. Do you think it's cheating what he's doing? Do you think the innie kissing the Audi's wife is cheating?
Well, I will say my wife is here, so I want to be very careful about what I say. Because if I get it wrong, she will let me know. I would say it's tricky. I don't know if it's cheating. It's not a scenario. They're breaking new cheating ground, If it is.
Or maybe it's just sort of a validation that the relationship has something special that even your innie knows this is the right person for him.
I think so, and I think what I loved about the arc was watching, the innie and the Audis start kind of at odds with each other about this, and then over the course of the season, they kind of learn something from each other and see what they can provide for each other. And it does feel like almost like a wake-up moment for the Audi to kind of realize what had been going on in his relationship, that he was kind of asleep to. So, John said yes, it was cheating.
Okay, Michael.
Yeah.
Ricken's book is well received by Lumen. Why?
Have you read it?
Does he work for Lumen?
No, he's a contractor. It's an employment joke that failed. No, he doesn't work for them.
Okay. Here's the fan theory. It's the only fan theory I'm going to be asking tonight. Is Ricken part goat?
Greatest of all time.
You see these goat props behind
The goat droppings?
Yeah. Those are my kids. Oh! He's eating the goat poop.
John, can we share?
Yeah.
Goat dropping? Goat dropping? Of course. Goat dropping? Goat dropping? Kier wills it.
Devour feculence.
There you go.
That is
Just like Mom used to make.
John Turturro, was Bert protecting you or protecting himself when he sent you away? What do you think?
Possibly both, yes, I think he was protecting Irving, but it was putting himself at risk in doing so. So I guess we'll find that. We'll find out.
It's a beautiful story.
Yes.
Beautiful love story.
Yeah.
Is Bert evil? He seems evil.
No. No, I think there's a...
That's how Earther sees him.
Well...
As not evil.
We all have dualities, Stephen. So, that's to be decided upon. So, no. I don't think anyone is all one thing, anyway. Even you.
I'm good to the core.
Yeah.
Sarah, what was it like joining a series in season 2?
Sorry, I'm finishing up my goat dropping.
What was it like to join something, like the first major role that you have, to be in something this special?
I mean, it's crazy. Like we were talking about, like something like this is so rare and special. I'm not gonna get used to it. I know how privileged this is. But no, it was incredible because I'm a big fan of the first season and all of these people up here. So getting to work with them and meet with them was just like a dream come true. I was pinching myself every single day.
I have to say, when she first came on the set, she was frighteningly good.
Yeah.
You know, we all looked at each other and were like, what the, who is this?
Yes.
You know, and,
Yes. As an older person, there's nothing more frightening than a competent young person.
Exactly right. Yes. That's exactly right. But,
Jen, Devin takes a real shift into trusting Harmony Cabell. And, with her brother's life. Why do you think she does this? She doesn't like Lumen. She doesn't trust Lumen.
I'm so glad you asked that. I don't think she does trust her. I think she's totally desperate. let me put it to you this way. If somebody fucked with my real life brother and sister-in-law, and the only way to save them was to call J.D. Vance, I would say, get him on the phone. Get him on the phone. It's my brother. It's my sister-in-law. And so I think, not to mention the fact that this poor woman is probably busting a leak. She hasn't breastfed in 48 hours. She hasn't eaten. She's underslept. And she's like, this is it. This is
Yeah, where's her baby?
My love?
I got it.
Rick in his breastfeeding right now. Goat. He's got all the udders. So much easier on the stomach too, is my understanding. Yeah. This is for the whole, anybody in the cast here. What scene from season 2 were you most excited for fans to see? Gemma, sorry. Dichen. Sorry, Dichen.
I love the Burton Irving scenes. Deeply.
Britt, how about you? What are you looking forward to people seeing this year?
The marching band scene. Getting to watch Tramell shine and delight. It was really hard to keep a straight face during the vaudeville session beforehand. But yeah, band time. And Ben Stiller operated the Keir Egan robot from behind the scenes.
Did?
And that was
I just did the movements, but Mark Geller, the actor who is Keir Egan, was doing the voice live with Tramell. You guys, and I think if you had worked on that act a little more, you could have taken it on the road.
There's still time.
Yeah.
Let's talk about marching band. How did that come about? That's a big choice.
It's funny because we weren't specifically looking for a musical performance because we had a fairly memorable music dance scene in the first season, and we kind of weren't actively trying to go in and replicate that. But there was just something about at one point somebody mentioned a marching band as we were writing it, and there's something about the sort of enthusiasm and the pomp of it, but mixed with the fact that it's people moving in unison, on a grid. And there was something there's always been something a little eerie about it to me, and so it just somehow felt perfect. It felt right.
Marching bands are military. They're a little
Right.
fascistic.
Yeah.
I love marching bands. also the weirdness of having.
Well, you love fascism. That's understandable.
What?
You were saying backstage how much you love fascism, Ben.
What?
Yeah. You were like, this all feels good to me. I'm just feeling great these days. Waking up early, pep in my step. I was shocked. I was really shocked.
You mean everything is going on?
Please go on.
Oh yeah. No, getting back to the show, I feel like the marching band in MDR was such a weird thing to have like 100 people in there. I remember it scared us a little bit. The idea of putting it's so weird because we're just used to seeing the gang in there, and then to have like 100 people playing instruments was just kind of crazy. So it was fun, and we had amazing musicians, an amazing choreographer come in, and band leader, and it was really fun. And it was during Adam's birthday last year that we shot it, and then the marching band played Happy Birthday for Adam, which was really cool.
It makes getting happy birthday sung to you even more embarrassing.
Which his birthday was yesterday, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing the math really quick on that. That means that we shot the scene about a year
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that checks out.
Look, it's just holding on the marching band for just a second. I want to talk about Tramell's performance in the show and Mr. Milchick and the role he plays there. For Dan and Ben, when you're thinking about a scene that includes Milchick, does it help or does it hurt that you know that whatever happens is going to be a little sexy? Always a little sexy when Milchick does it.
A little sexy.
It's a little sexy when Milchick does it. He came on my show without a shirt on.
Yeah.
He wore a vest.
Yeah.
It's not a look everyone can pull off.
I mean, Tramell's got it going on, so why not take advantage of that? I knew it was going to be unique and interesting, and there's so many things going on with Milchick at that moment in terms of where he is in his relationship with his bosses and the company, the stress he's under, and then having to kind of, pull this thing off. I think there's so many layers to what's going on with his character that he infused, that was what was fun about it too.
Yeah, I mean the contrast between the Cure Hymn, which was very military, right? And then the Ballad of Ambrose and Gunnell, which was more reminiscent of HBCU bands, which is what I appreciate, because we're infusing that history into the show. We get to see, how Milchick is a showman, and he shows off.
I like to talk about the mix of style in the show, and I mean literally the time style. Like everyone seems to be driving cars from the 1980s, and the fashion is hard to pin down, but everyone's got cell phones. Are we meant to not know what year it is? Because sometimes I think Reagan is president.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll get it.
Okay, perfect timing.
Gwendoline, Christie.
Hi, sorry, I just had to sort some shit out.
Gwendoline, what is Cold Harbor? Everyone else already told us, so it's cool. Ben and Dan are cool with you telling us.
I mean, I know all the answers. They told them to me because they know how trustworthy I am.
At the end of the day, how many times do you have to shower before you don't smell like goats anymore?
I smelled like goats before. That's how I got the role.
Lauren is one of the most unique characters in Severance. What's the most fun aspect of doing the show, and do you love the baby goats?
So I was an enormous fan of Severance season 1. I mean, such a huge fan that I was furious that I wasn't in it. I was so angry about it, and I thought I would never be in it, and I desperately wanted to be a part of this absolutely amazing, amazing cast and project. Hi, John. Big John fan. because the scripts are exceptional, and whilst everything is very much thought about and controlled and placed, you still have the space to be creative and to be collaborative, and it's a very fulfilling creative experience, which doesn't regularly happen in television.
Well, everybody, I've heard several people here say that, you know, Ben and Dan are open to the cast ideas. What about when you're shooting? Is any of it improvisational, or is it very locked to the script?
No, the script, we do the script.
You're not improvising.
It's very precise, unless we've rewritten it or Ben comes with a final tweak or something like that. And, we serve the material.
But you guys bring things to it. Every once in a while you will.
Oh yeah, but I think there's a lot of freedom within that. I don't mean that to be where you're constrained. Sometimes you can have more freedom when the material is so precise, because then you can do it in many different ways. It's a fallacy that when you're improvising, you're always freer. That's not necessarily true.
Sometimes you're improvising because it's not there.
Sometimes it's just bullshit.
Find it.
Sometimes it's just bullshit. You're just repeating it, and you're just treading water. Sometimes,
Hey, Britt, did the bangs exist before you got the part, or did you get the bangs for the part?
I had bangs before, but I remember one day, during a camera test, I walked up to Ben and they'd done my hair, and he said, "Britt, it looks like you have bangs." And I was like, "I do. I do have them." He's like, "I know, but it looks like you have bangs." Yes, they're bangs. And you decided I should stay a redhead. That was a big deal too.
Yeah.
But she has bangs?
Let's talk about it.
I'm very observant.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. The bangs are one of the clues as to what Cold Harbor is, isn't it? To what do you attribute the fact that this is, besides the fantastic cast and great writing, what is it about this particular story and this particular, the atmosphere of it, that grips people so much right now? Do you think people want to be severed?
I think there's something, the whole idea literally came out of, I was walking into an office job that I hated and caught myself being like, God, I wish there was some way to just disassociate from the next 8 hours. And so it was a real thought, it wasn't me trying to come up with a TV show, it just sort of happened, and then it was like, oh, that's interesting. It's kind of a screwed up thing to wish for. And so I do think that, we made it during the pandemic not knowing, we had no idea what environment we were going to be bringing the show into. But it happened to come at a time when people were sort of coming back from work from home, and this idea of a work-life balance was very front of mind, because that barrier had been sort of worn down, I think, by this whole work from home Zoom thing. So it's fascinating to sort of, you see how it works in this context that we could never have predicted. And then since then, there was a strike during our second season, a lot of people talking about just sort of, work and what workers should be owed, and where the boundaries should be, where they're not gonna give too much of themselves, and those things just can't help but make their way into the story.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think it's an intriguing concept that somehow hit on something with people that we all relate to, in terms of what, the opening line of the show is, "Who are you?" Our sense of identity, what makes up who we are, really. It's just, and there's a lot of bifurcation in our world where we're, our country is kind of divided. I think we divide our work life and our home life. All those things kind of are part of it. I think Dan hit on a greater metaphor of what is life about, And it's kind of, to me, like what these people are doing at work. They don't know what they're doing, why they're there, or who they are, which is kind of like what I feel all of us in life, in the world, are kind of trying to figure out. But I don't know. I'm curious what people, like what the fans of the show feel that they connect with, because I feel like what they really connected with, yeah, maybe we can do some questions.
Let's do a vote by acclamation. Would anyone here like to be severed? That's fun. Anybody on? Is anyone here tempted? Would anyone be tempted by the idea of Severance?
I've done karaoke several times. And every single one of those times, I wished I did not remember it.
So there are ways to achieve severance, is what you're saying.
Yes.
I would say also that I think a lot of the fans, not just from what I've seen and what I interact with, like so many of the fans of the show care so much about the characters, and they relate so much to these characters. They care about them as fully realized human beings. And so I think that connection with the actors and the characters and their investment in their journey and what they're going through is, I think, what people ultimately hold on to when you watch a show. You care about what these characters are going through.
Britt, I want to ask about Helena. It seems to me, it feels like the biggest difference between Innie and Outie, between any of the characters. What's left of Helena as Helly, do you think?
What's left of...
Well, when you're severed, I imagine there's some core part of the person left. You know, the core person that Zach's character becomes. Like, what's the core part of Helly that is surviving after Helena is cut out?
It's an interesting question. You know, like John was saying, this is one person and two sides of that same person. I kind of think of it as like the inner critic and the inner child. And Helly is this inner child that wakes up, pure consciousness, and has this defiant spirit of rebellion just embedded within her. And it made a lot of sense to me that Dan wrote her as on the outside to have grown up in this high control company where that rebel has been really suppressed very deeply. And so when she's awakened at the beginning of season 1, she's on fire. She has a really clear mission and a really strong sense of what is ethical and what is not.
Do they both love Mark?
What do you think?
I think you don't want to answer the question.
I'm gonna have John Turturro answer that question.
My claim.
I think they both love Mark. I think one loves Mark, and I think that the other wishes she had what Helly has. That's what I think.
Well, I think, you know, Helena experiences something through Helly's point of view that she's never had before. The way that the connections that Helly are earned with Dylan and Irving and Mark, she gets to experience that firsthand. And I think it rattles her and her sense of what Innies even are.
And they have sex.
Yes,
We're all adults. We're all adults.
They
She
share vessels.
experienced something. You had sex. We all. And the sex was so good, Mark, that it changed in Helen in some way. Is that a theory?
Yeah.
You specifically asked me to ask you that question.
Thanks, man.
So for Dan and for Ben, what's it like to see this, Dan, this idea first, as you're walking into the office that day, into a drudgery job that you wish you could cut out your brain for 10 hours, and now to see this turn into this beautiful project with these incredible artists and this great partner and all these fans. What's that like for you to see that become a reality?
I mean, surreal doesn't even begin to cover it. I mean, the fact that we're literally here, you know, both in Mammalian's Nurturable and the Lumen lobby, and that everybody here came here for this. It's hard to even wrap your heart around. You know, there's no describing it. I still thank you. I'm finally starting to accept that this probably isn't a big prank that everyone's playing on me, because for a long time I was sure it was. If it is, it's impressive.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking Apple TV Plus and the incredible creators of this show, Severance.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for coming.